The boss, we gonna rob the choo-choo?
For the upteenth time, Otis, yes, we're going to rob the train.
But, how do we rob the choo-choo if we don't stop the choo-choo?
This, my dear Otis, is a very special train. This train is the Roleplay Geeks Express, and it's going to wreck itself.
The choo-choo go boom?
Yes, 100%. Boom. Now, did you bring the items I requested?
Sure thing, boss. The lawn chairs, the handle bag of Twizzlers, and the soda pop.
Now all we have to do, my dear Otis, is sit back and enjoy the show.
Hey, boss, how long is the choo-choo gonna crash?
Oh, for about an hour. Pass the popcorn, will you? This train wreck is just getting started.
Welcome to Roleplay Geeks. I'm your host, Frank.
And I am your token hippie, John.
I am still not a hippie, and I'm Jim.
I am suffering from post-Christmas cookie diabetic coma, and I am as Steve as I'm going to get right now.
That's right. This week, we're down our port Steve, and our aft Steve our starboard Steve is not looking very good. So hopefully we'll get through the flight today with some Steve intact.
We'll try.
Today, we're going to talk a little bit about this year, this awful, terrible, crap, garbage, dumpster fire of a stupid year, but in a good way. We're going to talk about the things that happened in our gaming experiences this year that were good, that we liked, we enjoyed, that were noteworthy, that we feel like we should talk about on a podcast. Put it that way. We each have brought something to the table. I think there's probably a 80% chance that one of them is on everybody's list, but we'll find that out because we haven't shared our list. So we'll get to hear what the great things that we've experienced. I think it's fair to say that I know it's fair to say for me personally, but I bet it's true also for the other guys that we may have gamed the most in the last 9 months or so than we have in the last 10 years or so. If you sort of add it all together.
20.
Yeah, I was going to go 20, but I thought I'll back off and say 10. But I mean, it's
That might be fair to say.
Yeah, so it's been a very prolific gaming experience. So there's a lot for us to tap into, but it's been pretty exciting, even though it's been a dumpster fire of a year. So we're going to go through our list. I am not going to go first this week because I don't want to steal anybody's. Who wants to go first?
Not me.
Okay, Jimmy, you volunteered.
Not it.
Holy crap, it's Fantasy Grounds. Ta-da! Fantasy Grounds.
And Mara for the save.
It has been Fantasy Grounds and Discord have been one of the only things that has made this year more bearable. And I say that speaking to you from what looks to be a leisure suit bathrobe, a pumpkin orange shirt, hair that looks like Londo Malari from Babylon 5, if any of you know that.
Seriously, Steve looks like Charlie Brown got old and got a drinking problem.
And hair. Beautiful, gorgeous.
That's right, and hair. And sweet, delicious silver hair. But holy shit, what a toll it's taken on poor Charlie Brown this year. That I am in the basement in I don't give a fuck mode. I'm not on my normal microphone. I was upstairs. I got everything hooked up. The power cord was in the wrong place. Everything just felt awful. I felt like Santa Claus had hurt me.
Yeah, you really sound bad too.
I believe the port Steve may have cycled down a little bit. You were going somewhere with your favorite thing. You were explaining it.
This is a feel-good episode.
Oh, I'm still explaining it because the only way that my slightly depressed, lethargic Charlie Brown ass is doing any kind of socializing is on Discord, Fantasy Ground, and Roll20. And if it wasn't for those three things and being able to see you assholes virtually, this would be even worse of a year. Ta-da! There's your fucking intro.
Language, this is a family show.
Is it?
No,
Is it though? Really?
not even
Do you,
close.
do you honestly think that there are families out there that haven't heard their dad this morning go, God damn it, fuck shit. Motherfucking, that's fine. Oh, man, fucking great. New Year's next? Oh, fucking great. Fucking great.
It's the Carlin 7 words day.
Yeah. There you go.
Google it, kids, if you don't know what that is. All right, so let's kind of pull it together a little bit and make it a little more broad. One of the things that I'm really happy for is the virtual tools that we have available to us that even 5 years ago I don't think were as robust as they are now. They didn't feel as robust as they are now. I don't know, they may have, but we've been using a variety of those. We've used Steve mentioned Fantasy Grounds, which we've used a lot because of the campaign we're doing with Andrew, and there's also Roll20, which we've used in a number of our campaigns. So the root stuff that we did that in Roll20. I think for me, one of the great things about this dumpster fire year has been when we did this stuff before, it's kind of like, why would we bother? We'd just get together and play. But we weren't getting together and play because life and things going on and parenthood and all the things that keep people from getting together when they're not 14 and playing for 12 hours straight kept that from happening. The virtual tools that we have, because we weren't allowed to get together, virtual tools, we had to use them and figure out how to make them work. And I think it's been great that we figured out how to use them. And I can't see not doing this going forward. So once the restrictions are lifted, I still see a weekly game, our weekly quote unquote poker game, if you will, of having that going forward within our gaming circle. And that's pretty awesome.
It made a lot of gamers who weren't gamers, and it made a lot of gamers who were gamers, but not gaming online gamers. So the year's been very, very strange. We had a talk with our oldest daughter, Kira, last night, and she said that yesterday and this past week might be her favorite. And she said, I know, everything's terrible, but we did so many things that were so different and so meaningful and so family, even though we were doing it remotely. And one of the things that she talked about was the fact that we were on Discord and Zoom calls and FaceTime with family. And all of a sudden, the family get-togethers that we would have with multiple people in big groups in a house where everybody's uncomfortable and someone's standing in the kitchen and they miss a conversation in the dining room. And maybe someone's outside because they're like, screw this, I'm tired of being around these people, I'm going to go sit outside. They don't miss the conversation. Everybody's on a flat screen the same distance away, and you can't have multiple conversations. And it forces you to focus on one or two people at any given time. And that's also an interesting thing about using these tools to game, is that sure, you get cross chatter and you get breakdowns and you get those typical gaming moments where everything just seems to fall apart and degenerate into laughter. But the interface itself forces a concentration on one person at a time that in-person gaming doesn't. And that's interesting for people who, may not normally have a voice while they game, or you may struggle to maintain your focus in the game. So that's a positive, right?
Let's say yes.
Yeah, why not? Sure. Biggest thing for this year, I don't know if it's the biggest thing, a thing for this year, I guess sticking with what we're talking about is being able to role play with people we normally wouldn't because of distance. When we were younger and all lived in the same town, we played with Steve, who was our missing Steve for the day.
The port Steve.
Yeah. So when we were all living in the same town, we were able to play with Steve-O. Now we're 3.5 hours. I don't know how long it takes you guys to drive that distance, but about 3.5 hours away from Steve-O. And Andrew, who we play with every Wednesday, is 3 hours south of us. So we don't have the opportunity to play in person with them ever. I think Steve-O came up one time for us to play with him in person, and we never
last time he came up, I'm pretty sure his eldest daughter now is out of college and she's got a full-time job and that sort of stuff and lives on her own. I'm pretty sure the last time he came up, she was maybe freshman in high school, maybe. I don't know if she was even that old. So it's been a long time.
Right. So it's been, forever since we played with Steve-O, and we haven't played with Andrew ever. He just came in and started playing with us. He's a seasoned game master, so it's really nice to have him in there. Someone who knows the Dungeons and Dragons and Fantasy Ground systems really, really well, and that's been a hoot.
Seasoned. It sounds like like it's a steak or
like we're getting ready
nice
to eat
chicken,
it. It's cannibal time
chicken
on
fillet.
Roleplay Geeks.
It's a delicious, delicious cut of meat.
Okay, and moving on from the cannibal talk. So that's probably the biggest thing for me is being able to play with people I wouldn't be able to play with, particularly Steve-O, because with Traveler, he's my favorite game master.
Yeah, and Steve-O did wanted to convey that the big thing that he wanted to note was that very point, was the ability to play. That's been the biggest, really positive thing that he's experienced this last year. So I just want to throw that in there since
what
I'm going to what you were talking about.
Yeah, I'm going to actually get with him later and just ask him a couple of questions and then cut it in, his responses for the year, because we can do that.
So the thing that's kind of interesting to me about that is that we have called out Steve-O many, particularly Jimmy. He just did it many times for GMing Traveler Drink, and but he hasn't. We've been playing at all. Like the only Traveler we've done, Jimmy's run, and it's kind of funny. He's been doing, he's talked a lot about Call of Cthulhu, and I think he's preparing to do that campaign again really soon. And that's kind of cool too. And that's been a lot of fun, which is when I'm going to get to my favorite thing of the year, which is the ability to try all these new systems. One of the constraints that I've had in my life with these new systems has been the consumption of them. It takes a lot of time to, you got to buy it, which can be kind of expensive. And then you've got to download it, read it, and understand it. And then you've got to share it with everybody. And then they've got to understand it. And then, you've got to go through making characters, which seems to take anywhere from 5 minutes to 18 days. It can be a very lengthy and annoying process before you ever get to play. When we've been getting together in person, who has time for that? If we're lucky, we get 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday once a month was what we were doing the game. And you just don't want to spend that time going, okay, wait, no, the attribute is advantageous, good go-go juice. Now, how does that work? And then trying to understand whatever that weird arcane rule is for whatever system it's been, and play it and implement it. We've had the ability to take offline time and everybody gets a copy of the rules in some form or fashion, whether it's an open source version or wherever it is. And then we get to digest the rules, and we get to try to make characters, and we can work independently of the GM to make whatever. And then we can get together and play, and we get to try a lot of different things. So we're not just playing Traveler Drink and D&D, which is pretty much 90% of what we played. We played a little Star Wars, but that was about all we played. That's been really exciting for me that this process allows for that, so that in your busy day, I've got all these things going on in my life. I just don't have time to sit down and devote to gaming, but I got 10 minutes because turns out I'm stuck in a parking lot waiting for a kid to show up, or, I'm waiting for this doctor's appointment. Let me pull out my phone, read the PDF rules, and see if I can understand how this particular mechanic works. It's been a really cool thing that we've got to do this year.
Radio silence.
We're reflecting on the cool.
Yeah. Well, I guess I could go next. So, simply put, I haven't found the whole pandemic to be that horrible yet. But for me, it's for completely different reasons. No, one benefit.
Family friendly show. Back to the family friendly show.
I'm not saying a word. I'm not even going there. But there's the aspect that I can game out with my cock out. You know, it is kind of nice, you know, just like
Oh my God.
Yes.
you know that we can play
Oh
and be
God.
comfortable and not have to worry about. One of the issues we had was we'd usually go to Frank's house, and my wife would be worried because I'd be coming home at, you know, sometimes between 1 and 3 in the morning, and I'm a bit further away than everyone else. Everyone else has about a 3 to 5 minute drive, where I have about a 30-some minute drive.
At exactly 30 minutes. You have it exactly. I've timed it many times. My door to your door is exactly 30 minutes.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a bit of a more of a drive for me, and of course, you know, when it's really late or as it turns out early in the morning, my wife gets kind of worried. So she's always concerned about, you know, be careful, give me a call when you leave it, you know, and if we stopped and talked in the garage before I actually got in the car, you know, then it's 30 minutes turns into an hour or something, and it's like I'm getting a call as I'm like leaving instead of when I'm getting there or something, you know, that sort of thing. So I mean that it has been nice having the whole thing. And I see everything else you guys are talking about, the whole, you know, trying new game systems and being able to be a little bit more relaxed about doing it, because we can, like, you know, like doing Call of Cthulhu worked out really well because Steve O was rather able to go ahead and individually get with us and do a little character development and a little bit of single one-on-one adventuring to kind of get us used to our character and how the system worked, so that when we actually all got together to play in the group, we all were able to actually do a great job, I thought, and fluidly play as if it was a system we'd played before, because to an extent we had at least a little bit. So that, I mean, all these things have been a huge boon. But I guess the thing I liked was that I got to meet Andrew. I think I'd met him maybe once before, but actually getting to play with him, and it's kind of like getting a new friend. It's actually been really kind of cool. Somebody that shares similar interests. That's been really kind of cool. Also met a couple other people, and I found out, well, I like this guy, or I like that guy, or oh, I don't like this guy. He's an ass.
I thought
And,
Andrew was mute when I first met him. I think I heard him say like a sentence and a half during the whole time.
Yeah.
We were at Kira's birthday party, I think. Yeah, and it's the first time I met him. He was incredibly quiet.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know, 8 feet tall.
Reserved would probably be a good word for him.
It was hard to see him because
Reserved,
yes.
Andrew doesn't bother using words he doesn't need to use. He's the type of person that would always use one word. If you needed 2 words, he would try to find a way to use one. That's just sort of his way, which makes a really interesting DM mechanic, to be honest with you. As a side note, because he doesn't give you anything other than what he needs to give you, and it does make it a little more. I was reflecting on this the other day. I was thinking that, you know, in some ways it reminds me, and this is for the olds. You kids aren't going to understand this. It reminds me a little bit of the early days of video gaming. The graphics and the stories were pretty rich, but the graphics were very low key. They're 8-bit or text even. And you had to put a lot of stuff in your own brain. You know, you had to connect a lot of dots and invent your own thing. And so to some extent, I think Andrew's GM style is a little bit like 8-bit gaming, is that you've got to do the heavy lifting in your own brain, which is really good because, you know, there's not that much that a DM could use to
kind of and kind of not. There's a number of times when it seems like he's wanted to kind of push things along a little bit quicker, and he's kind of thrown stuff out there which I wish he wouldn't do.
Yeah, I mean, he does have a at least with us, he is playing with a style, and that style lends with a certain type of gaming, and he's sort of pushes us in certain directions. But it's kind of neat. Anyway, I got off on a tangent.
But yeah, so like you said, we've gained more this year than, man, at least 5 years, I'd say. So yeah, it's good.
Frank is just giving me the signal that I'm supposed to talk, but I just got back because I had like domestic stuff going on.
So this is going to be an interesting episode. We were all supposed to show up with 3 things that are favorite things of the year. And so I just signaled one person, the Starboard Steve, and his eyes suggested that he did not, in fact, wish to go next. So then I signaled Jimmy, and his face says, "What are you doing? Where's my clothes? How do I put my armor on? I don't know what's going on." So we'll see how this goes. Jimmy, your second thing.
My second thing.
That's my subtle way of having a good transition from John ending his thing. This is how this works. And then I let you know without interrupting John with that. See, they give you the hand signal that says, Jimmy, subtly come in with your next thing. That's what this is how this works.
So I was going to talk about the biggest industry thing for me this year, but you having said that is the biggest improvement in the podcast has been our communication. That's the thing that I think
just
the biggest.
fantastic. That one, I thought that Frank was motioning that while I had zoned out for just a minute and was trying to think about what it feels like for people who are low on insulin, that maybe I had intimated in some capacity visually that I had something to follow up to John. And so Frank makes the signal, and I'm like, holy fuck, what'd I do? Oh, no, I'm not. No, I don't have anything to follow up.
So what Frank does is he keeps in his head a little bit of a run of like who's talked recently and who hasn't been heard from a while. And it was actually Steve had been quiet for some time, and it was his turn to talk. So that's why I gave the signal to Steve talk. Yeah. And then he gave me panic face. And I was like, all right, Jimmy hasn't talked. I'll give him the signal. And then Jimmy did not give me panic face. He gave me on air. What am I supposed to do? And now that's why we've gone down this level. So
I just finished talking.
Okay, I'm ready now.
Okay.
The biggest
and
thing.
hold it.
Yeah. Okay.
Jimmy is going to give us his third thing.
Yes, that's what I'm going to do. So,
all right, everybody quiet. Jimmy.
Yep.
Start talking. Wait for it.
Not
now.
yet.
Yeah. So anyway, my biggest industry thing for this year is how the pandemic impacted conventions. Because when we started this at the beginning of this year, I came to Frank. He had podcasting experience with his other podcast that's been going on for 12 years, 10 years, something like that.
15 years. 15 years.
Jeez.
Yeah. 2005.
So it's like, I want to start this podcast.
Shameless plug, veryspatial.com. If you're into geography of the geospatial industry in any way, shape, or form, it's a very different style of podcast than this one. But if you're into that, check it out, veryspatial.com. Sorry.
Nope, that's good. So
No apologies.
None at all. So we started this, just Frank and I had ideas to bring the other guys in, but I'm always very methodical about new projects that I start, and I wanted to go slow so I could figure out, Jimmy's
the type of person that if he misses a step, he doesn't mind repeating it 8 times.
That's true. That's very true.
Well, he really hated us. He did not want us in this.
I didn't.
That's true. That's true.
It was the smell. They smell good, and it made me feel bad about myself.
Which is his 4th greatest thing about this year. The virtual has made it possible.
That's right. I don't have to smell those beautiful.
Because there's no such thing as smell-o-vision, so it's okay.
Of John and Stephen. So, yeah, it was at the beginning of the year, I thought maybe we get this to a point where we can actually take the show on the road at a convention. And I still want to do that, but the pandemic ruined that plan. So for me, the biggest disappointment of the year was how the pandemic impacted me in terms of my plans for the convention stuff. But it's also given us a lot of time to sort of develop the show out. Now, this episode, by no means shows how far we've come, but we have gotten a lot better at some of the things for podcasting, a little bit more comfortable on air. And I think by the time summer rolls around or fall, hopefully enough.
In the year 2036.
Yeah, maybe we have a lot of time to get better at this, but hopefully by this summer or maybe in the fall, we'll be able to attend a convention or two and take the show on the road, as it were. So I'm sort of looking forward to that. So I think that's the biggest industry impact kind of thing that happened this year.
Polio.
Polio?
Polio.
Why are you bringing up
No,
polio?
wait. Are you doing another positive, or are we doing negatives now? Because he said a negative a little bit ago, and I don't know. So we're doing like a positive, a negative, then a positive. I don't understand. Please.
This is flipping the switch back and forth between positive and negative.
Okay.
Polio. Because I don't think that, I mean, Gen Con wants to have a convention this year, and I think it's fantastic that they're planning for it. But I'm not holding out hope that in-person cons are going to be worth going to yet, just because of polio. Do I need to explain that?
God, I hate to say it, but I think you do.
Okay, well, we all knew. Maybe not our listeners, but the rest of us knew he was going to anyway. He was gonna anyway.
Maybe, but I might not have gone into it as deeply as I am now.
Oh wait, let me interject for Steve-O. Polio? What do you mean by polio? Because the rest of us know not to ask that question, but Steve-O doesn't. So
as a year-end moment, I read a lot of articles. I don't consume books anymore. I am the worst person with an English degree ever. And I consume online. I consume articles, editorials, documentaries, all kinds of things like that, right?
you're rubbing your mic up against your collar when you're going like this.
Oh, yeah. And you see, that's part of the fuck it. It's December 26th, and I'm in the basement in my robe looking like Fat Charlie Brown, and I'm not using my real microphone. So I'll hold this up. So if I'm rubbing for everyone, oh, that sounded wrong. If
That sounds
the
just
microphone
right.
is rubbing, I apologize. I'm going to hold it up
No,
now.
Keep going. Almost
Like,
there.
no. This podcast is
And we were talking about polio. Let's talk about polio.
polio.
Still
So
looking for me.
Salk, the guy who came up with the polio vaccine. For those of you kids who don't realize this, in the 50s, we had a very terrible pandemic that was far more awful in so many ways than what we're going through now, where people ended up on breathing machines for the rest of their lives, where it affected people's limbs and they couldn't, they wasted away. It was awful. So if you think that this is something new, you need to go back and look up the word polio. All right. So this guy's son, who came up with the vaccine that basically kept the world from imploding in the 50s, was talking about what it was like when his dad brought home the experimental version of this vaccine to inoculate his family before they had done any trials or anything like that. And he was saying how the 5 years after were still so traumatic for so many people and still so dangerous. And so many people still ended up contracting polio and suffering horribly for it. And we have to realize that I don't know that cons are going to be able to get traction this year. And I think that if they do, it'll be interesting to see just how different they're going to be. The steps that you're going to have to take, because even if everyone there is inoculated, the potential that you're still spreading it because the disease is in circulation, because it takes time in order for that disease to kind of get snuffed out. And not everybody's getting the same vaccine. Not everybody has the same amount of protection. And I think it's wishful thinking, but I would love to see it happen. I told the guys here that I think we should shoot for 2021 and realize that it's going to be 2022 before we get to go to Gen Con. And speaking of disruptions to life, there goes John chasing after a small white puppy.
So that was a good cap to turn that around from small white puppy, and then that spun it around. That turned that ship.
You're welcome. The second word for the day is pancreas.
I'm not going
Okay.
there. Not asking.
All right. So we were supposed to have three. So there's plans, and then there's what we're doing. And they're gone. They're out the window. So the other thing that I've got, for me, it's just personal growth. I feel like I have role played more this year, not in a actually doing role playing, but in so for our listeners, Jimmy's wife has come into camera frame at an angle, and to say it was a bit unexpected.
She foisted herself upon us.
That's right. She just got home.
Well, it's only fair he foisted himself upon her.
That's valid.
It's only fair. Anyway, what was I saying? Right, role playing. I was talking about me role playing. I have engaged aspects of role playing and thrown myself into doing things that I wouldn't have done ever. Things like trying a little bit with voices, not a lot, but acting out a part and engaging in actual role playing instead of just sort of tactical murdery type things. I don't want to oversell it.
Tactical murder hoboing.
Yeah, that's it.
Like
That's kind of TMH. That's what we do. I don't want to oversell it. It's certainly nowhere near that, they're going to invite me on Critical Role anytime soon. I mean, this is not massive, but it has been a growth for me personally, a stretch for me personally. And that's been a lot of fun.
Maybe you could even call it tactless murder hoboing.
Has John given us his second thing?
He has not. It's John's turn. Shut up.
Oh my God. I haven't. Oh, okay. So I have to come up with a second one.
Do you need time?
This is why preparation helps, folks.
Preparation H.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh.
So you know what? We'll move on to Jimmy while John desperately
okay.
comes up with a second answer to the quiz.
Preparation hobo. Preparation A.
That's called picking your spells before the battle. That's really what that is.
A personal thing for me this year. The biggest personal thing. Maybe that's what I'll do next.
You don't have to. It was just something that was a positive for me.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the year, I spent a lot of time working. I work long hours throughout the week, and it was wearing on me. And I needed some creative outlets. So I decided at the beginning of the year to commit to doing a couple of projects. One was the podcast, and the other was a YouTube channel. And I was able to this year stick
both
with
of which you tried to run yourself into the ground with.
Yeah, I was able to stick it out for the whole year, but in large part thanks to these guys, because they took up a lot of the lifting, the post-production lifting, particularly Steven and Steve-O, and then just showing up every week for the recordings of Roleplay Geeks. That's a commitment, and these guys have been great about that. And then Frank being able to host the show, with his experience and his, on-air experiences has made it easier, I think, to get this off the ground and keep things rolling. Steven's amazing radio voice, and then and then just adding on,
which is not today's voice.
Not today's voice. He's recuperating from carb overload on Christmas, like many of us, I imagine. And then adding Steve-O on, somebody that I don't get to see very often because of distance, and being able to see him virtually every week has been fantastic. But as growth, it's just putting systems in place to be able to produce creative outlets for 2 different platforms has given me the confidence maybe for this next year to add on another YouTube channel, I think, or another podcast.
Because if you didn't know, the day has gotten longer. So then we no longer have 24 hours, which Jimmy struggled to fit everything in. Now we get to move out to a full 30. That's the side effect of 2020. 2020 gives us 30 hours in an average day.
Well, no, you know what it is? It's that we've gotten better at putting systems in place that make the hours that we do have available to us operate within those more efficiently. So it gives more
this
time.
Podcast, this particular episode notwithstanding.
This episode is not indicative of the advances we've made on the back end of producing the podcast.
I don't know. It feels like it's going to be about 30 hours so far. So
maybe. And Stephen has started his own podcast. So we definitely have more time, or maybe two. I don't know if
I say his own podcast. Which one are you talking about? The first one, the second one, or the third one that's imminently to launch in a month, I think, or so?
I've only had the opportunity to listen to Game Mastery. I haven't listened to the other. I know he has two others in the works. What's up?
One is going to launch at the end of January, and the other one I'm just going to push out there without much fanfare soon. But I want you to think about what you're saying about this episode's not indicative. This episode, this is going terrible. Do you realize what an awful shit show this would be if we didn't have a year's worth of experience under our belts? This is gold compared to what would have happened a year ago.
Yeah, that's probably
so. Our
true.
Listeners may not understand that or appreciate it, but this is not shitstorm. This is gold. Keep that in
if they've
mind.
listened to the first episode and then got to here, they probably understand that.
Yeah, for that one guy, that one person
who remembers listening to the episodes that are no longer up. So you see, I mean, we've come a long way.
Yeah, we yanked the first two episodes just because people would listen to those and be like, this sucks.
And we'd be like, we know.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first two episodes. We're learning. I've never been on the air before. Come on, give me a break. So we yanked those. I think Stephen maybe mentioned we should do that. And when we look back through the metrics about halfway through the year, it's like, yeah, people are listening to the first two episodes and not coming back. And then when we yanked those two, we started getting more people. We probably should yank like the first year. Just the second year.
So that's the other great thing about this year, right? One, we've got to do this, but two, you people have decided that we're worth listening to, which is kind of cool. It's kind of neat that you can have some thoughts and you can record those thoughts and people go, hey, I think that's worth spending my hour or an hour and 10 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever the hell this thing ends up being in time with these five morons. And it's enjoyable enough for me. I get enough out of it to go back and do it again. Which one, good on you. Thank you. That's really awesome that anyone would listen to any of us about anything. So that's cool. Two, maybe some questionable life choices, but it's awesome that you're still listening and please continue to listen to what we've got going on here.
And of course, the metrics for 2021 are going to show that this episode is when things fell off again, strangely, oddly. And we had to struggle and claw or climb our way back to our normal listenership. So, yeehaw!
Okay, so, all right, let's try to put a bow on this train wreck. How about that? And let's talk a little bit about what we're wanting to see in the next year, what we're hoping to have happen next year. We got some stuff coming up, which is kind of cool. Jimmy has sat down. He talked about those processes. And one of the things that Jimmy has worked diligently doing is refining those processes. And we've got some new ones coming up to allow us to be more cognitive of what we're going to talk about in the future. So you don't get situations like this, that, we can be a little more prepared and think through some of this. The mechanisms will be in place to allow for that to happen. And whether it does, certainly you'll find out over the coming weeks and months. But that's kind of cool. I think that's a neat thing we've got coming up this year.
Is that your one thing for the improvement for this next year?
I got others, but I thought I'd give you guys a chance to talk. This is what are you looking forward to in this coming year?
We never heard about John's second thing.
I'll do mine as my second thing and this part. How's that?
Perfect.
It's a twofer. So
That's dovetailing, folks. That's
It is.
It's dovetailing, and
dovetailing.
then it's basically it's a wrapping up thing
Right.
that happens after I said let's put a bow on it. That's how this works
Yeah. So
with the communication.
The improved
So-
communication.
what?
The improved communication.
Yes. Yeah. So for me, the one thing I'd actually gotten to enjoy was
Wait. You know what you should do, Jimmy?
Uh-oh.
You should interview Steve-O, right? And have him start everything with, yeah, that's a good point. And then talk about something that's completely unrelated.
No doubt.
There's just a random tangent in the middle and then go back to the middle of whatever John was saying or Steve was like. I'm sorry. Go
No
ahead.
doubt I
Oh,
won't
okay.
have to force that issue. I think it'd just naturally happen.
Oh, okay. I can speak now. Okay.
Yeah, your turn. Go ahead and talk.
So what I've had for
Anytime you're ready, just let her out. Say what you will.
I'm gonna wear a mask and then I'm gonna come over and stab you. So anyway, what I've had this, role playing game that I've been wanting to get written and out there. And the nice thing is I've actually been able to work on it. And then by playing other games and seeing some things that's done, I've found things I'm like, well, I don't like that aspect of gaming. And I've been able to kind of shape some things differently than what I had before. And so the thing that I'm then looking forward to this next year is actually maybe, God almighty, it'd be wonderful too. And I kind of hate to even say it because it basically jinxes it, but I'd like to get it to finish, or at least hugely progressed anyway, to a far more playable point. And so that's what I'm kind of looking forward to. And the nice thing is because we're getting together so much more, I've got my built-in testing crew available at any point now that I can kind of run things through, go over things. And the cool thing is I can see everyone's face in a very small quadrant on my screen. And so when something comes up and I'm trying to explain stuff, I can see the complete confused look from Jamie.
Hey,
Or the
what are you talking
look
about?
of disgust from Steven, and then the poignant wondering why you did it that way look from Frank, and kind of gather, the information I need on whether that's a good idea or a bad idea or whatever. Because, some things I want it to perplex and some things I want to annoy, and that'll be perfect.
Using microaggressions to your benefit.
Exactly.
In a future
So that's
episode
what I'm
of
kinda
Roleplay
going
Geeks. So I ran a campaign. We stopped halfway or a third of the way through the campaign because I got way too ambitious. But one of the things that I did is I used John's system and adapted it. And it's kind of cool. I don't think it worked. Not the system, but my changes. But they were things that I did. And then some of it I worked through John, some of it I just did it. And I think on the back end, it's got problems, but it's been a really cool process to play around with that. And I think that you're right. Playing with new systems allowed us to sort of go, oh, I should have done that a little different, or no, this is stupid. It needs to address this. I think that's going to be really cool to refine that system over the coming year, to make it almost, I would like to see it almost GURPSian, if I can invent that word. This is a thing that can do a lot of different things.
Right, that was the whole point of it. So there's a number of different genres to kind of shoehorn into it. And I think that's going to be where some things get really kind of crazy. And part of the issue is that we've never really played any of those. I would like to get kind of a cyberpunk feel into it. And I don't know if we ever played anything that actually had much of that. I mean, I know we looked at some rules to do it, but I don't think we actually ever really played anything that had that. So I would like to come up with rules for that. There's quite a few things, and I would like to have build up some rules for handling kind of like large scale warfare, maybe even almost like miniature, gaming rules. I don't know if I'll get that far into it, but
There was
introduced
I was trying to say put a bow on the year for you, but I didn't know how to mime that. So I went with bow, and then I realized no, that's going to indicate put a bow on the podcast, and that's not what I want to mean. So it'd been like this. Basically, I mimed steal third, take the hit, and walk. If any of us knew anything about baseball,
No,
Was that for me or for everyone?
probably.
Gotcha.
I
I've enjoyed this year. I'll put it that way. Put a bow on it for me. I enjoyed this year. We've had a good time, and our gaming has really kind of improved. We've met some new people,
As well as our communication.
right? And I've got some new venues to go down, as it were. So hopefully, get some things going this year, and I hope I have some time to get some things done. So I'm looking very, very forward to this coming year. So
we are lucky that we have the ability to do this, and that we at least mostly like most of our friendship stuff. Holy shit, what just happened? Let's go back to my second word of the day, pancreas. Blood sugar, insulin.
Made more sense than whatever the hell it is that you were talking about.
I know, really. So the wrap up for me for the year. Holy crap.
What are you looking forward to? What are you looking forward to this year? That's what Steven. What are you, Steven,
Yes.
looking forward to in the year 2021?
Employment that doesn't make my heart want to kill me. How about that?
Role-playing related.
And that means that I'd like it to be role-playing related. You see, I like
did
the
use some
podcast.
job things that had that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are getting perspective on all kinds of things in what they're doing in gaming this year. I think that it seems to me, anecdotally, looking at the number of pod and video casts and role-playing products that have come out this year, that this has probably been the single greatest event in human history for role-playing games. That there's been nothing that has spurned the interest in trying to escape and be and play and experience something different.
Poor Tom Hanks and his lovely little movie.
Which is a terrible movie, if anyone dares to go see it.
It's better than that Jeremy Irons Dungeons and Dragons movie.
I know so many people who love that, and I just...
Really?
I do. I love that movie because it's so awful, and it's exactly like every 13-year-old's gaming experience, and that's what I love about it. It reminds me exactly of what it was to play D&D at 13. That movie is that encapsulated, and I love that about it. It's not a good movie. It's poorly acted. Its story sucks. Its dialogue is childish. Its special effects are fine. They're fine, but for the time. But that's what I love about that movie. That when I walked into that movie, because John and I think you went too, but I know John and I went and saw that movie at the mall here in Morgantown, and we walked out of it. I'm pretty sure you were there too, because the look on your face was, I've just been violated personally, and I want my money back. And Barbara went too, my wife.
It's okay if you got it for free.
Yeah. And I actually looked at John. I was like, I really enjoyed that movie, and I told him exactly why, because so I do enjoy that movie. For it made me feel like a 13-year-old playing D&D again, in the worst possible way.
That's a fair point. And I'm just curious whether or not making a good Dungeons and Dragons movie is part of Steven's plan for making money off of role playing in the next year. Because if you made one, I'd go see it.
Oh, that's awesome. I was looking at directors who had directed all these things this year that we really liked, like Mandalorian and all these different things, and thinking, who the hell are these people and how did they get their start? And how do you get into that? And what do you have to do? What art film do you have to put out? That
you write a movie about listening to swing music and going to LA and being money, and then you release the movie with your friends, and then you get I think he's convicted rapist to release the movie. And it goes crazy. And then that's how you get a career to direct the Mandalorian.
That's
Oh.
one of many ways you could.
Well, that's how he did it. I'm just saying.
You don't have to do it the same way.
Favreau
Steve.
did it
Really
that way.
different.
That's how he did it.
Or you can do it this David Sandberg way. You know who David Sandberg is? He's
that comedian that I don't like.
No. He is the director of Shazam, Annabelle Creation, I think was the name of it, and Lights Out.
Oh, he did Shazam?
Yeah.
So, who's the other guy? Andy, what's that guy's name?
I'm thinking Andy Samberg.
Do we really have time in this podcast to list all the things that you don't like?
That's true.
Well, this one at least is relatable.
I mean, I swear to God, if we sit and hit record and let Steve and Jimmy just bounce back and forth, naming the things they don't like, you would not be able to listen to it in a year. I'm pretty sure.
You die before. Not to say everyone would die and stuff like that. It would just continue on. It would just be an accumulating list as it went on, because it didn't even include them doing this, and it,
Well, actually, the David Sandberg thing leads right into my thing. So, but I want to hear what Steven's plans are for work in the role-playing industry for this next year, and how.
Yes, please enlighten us.
And how we might be able to help facilitate that with our little podcast.
Oh my God. Well, the Game Mastery podcast, I really want to, fill a different need than we do here. And what I'd love to have happen is, I need to get a hold of some of the people that I know and say, for God's sakes, let me do a walk-on tryout to do some work on this or that project. You put me in a really weird spot. I don't like talking about this stuff.
But you don't have to. I'm not putting a gun to your head.
It's really weird.
You could just say, for this next year, I want to explore different avenues that may allow me to pursue a career related to the work we've done this last year in podcasting. There you go.
Wow. That was spoken.
That was actually kind of clear and concise.
That's not me at all. As you can tell from everything I've said on this podcast for the last year.
Can I use that as my elevator pitch from now on? I'll just have it on my phone recorded. I'm going to take that as a soundbite, and people are going to be, well, Stephen, what would you like to do at your position at Global RPG Networks? And I'll just click the phone, and it'll be your voice going.
Well, not my voice. Use your voice, because my voice grates on people's. It's like putting hands on a chalkboard or fingernails on a chalkboard. Hands on a chalkboard don't do anything.
It'll get noticed. And they'll look at me and they'll go, "What the hell was that?" And I'll go, "Oh, that's
nails on a chalkboard.
That's the little voice inside of me that wants to win."
Anyway.
Oh, okay. So we're on to the next person for things for next year. Did you do yours, Frank? I haven't done mine yet.
I don't know. I don't know who the hell's done what. Who knows?
Yeah,
let's. I don't know. If I not, I'll do it again. Did you do yours? I had to go pee. I left. I actually left the room and went and peed because I drank too much coffee. So,
me too,
folks, this is not the sausage making. This is the butchering before you even get to the sausage making. It's just ugly and terrible. You know what the intro should be? The intro should be
the little lambs actually growing up.
Yeah.
Running through the field and eating clover and et cetera, before the butchering.
The intro for this episode should just be the sound effect of a train wrecking and then just start.
Yes.
So for this next year, specifically for the podcast, so I was talking about David Sandberg, and anyone who doesn't know who David Sandberg is, we've already mentioned some of the films he's done, but he started out making films with a Blackmagic pocket camera in his apartment in Norway? Sweden? I think he's from Sweden. Yeah, he's from Sweden. And he did this one short that I saw, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago now, something like that, called Lights Out. So you should go check the short film Lights Out and see what he did just in his apartment. That caught the eye of people in Hollywood, and before too long, he was offered the opportunity to film a full-length theatrical release based on that short film, Lights Out. Then he went on to do several other films, including Annabelle Creation and Shazam. And he's slated to do the next Shazam movie as well. You can go on and check out his YouTube channel, Pony Smasher. Well,
Shazam.
I know there's probably anybody who's listening to this podcast under the age of 50 is going to go, what the heck is that all about? But check out Gomer Pyle also while you're on YouTube. So long story short,
It's vintage.
or at least try not to go down the Stephen Morris storytelling medium. I want to
Polio.
do more video for this next year.
Pancreas.
So I'm pancreas.
Shazam.
So I want to do more video
are
this
dorks.
next year. I'm going to create a whole YouTube channel just on my process of learning how to put together short films. But I also want to use the Roleplay Geeks YouTube channel. Yes, we have one. And start doing different videos actually on the podcast YouTube channel, so that I can stretch myself a little bit with different styles of video making that lends itself more to the podcasting realm. Maybe do animations, that kind of thing, to some of these episodes that we're doing. Not this one, because this one's god awful, but maybe some of the others. And that's it. That's all I want. More video stuff for the podcast this next year.
I just want to play more. That's really all I hope for in the 2021. Play different things. I have stuff that I'd like to do, and hopefully I'll do them. I've mentioned many times that I've started a few new hobbies. I would love to make some music around this podcast just for funsies, but who knows if it's something I actually do. I would love to do some comedy stuff. If you haven't checked, go ahead.
I have to interrupt you. I think the only kind of music you could do, the only instrument you could use for this podcast would be a theremin.
So I actually almost bought a theremin. Funny you should say that. And I have a virtual theremin in VR that I've downloaded. And the reason I almost bought a theremin is because my wife wants to learn to play a theremin, of all things.
Well, why not?
Yeah, so why not? I'll probably use something like a cigar box guitar that's out of tune. That would be the kind of
That would be good.
that was my thinking. But
Well, the thing you need to be worried about, man, if she's going to get a theremin, she's going to get a lot of interest. It sounds like she's trying to leave you, dude. Because then, well, it's like the guitarist in a group, he's the one that gets all the ladies and stuff like that. But a woman with a theremin, man, she's just gonna
money.
It's
It's
like
money.
meme of,
To get back to the swingers thing,
Oh,
how do
yeah.
you, the John Favreau, the
I'm just going
Mandalorian.
like hot dogs at her face kind of thing.
this is I'm just callback. It's a callback. So yeah, that was the train wreck that was this episode. If you have any thoughts about it, keep it to yourself, because we don't need to hear it. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we know. Okay, we know. We knew it when we started, and we thought maybe it'll write itself.
We needed Steve.
Well, I did. I did. And then we were like, no, we're just going to lean into it. And then we leaned on it so much it fell over. And then we started rolling down the hill. And we ran into it again, and it stabbed us in the shoulder. So we know. But if you want to contact
beehive stuck on our head,
stuck on our
It's
head,
still
and
going
just-
on. It's still a train wreck. It hasn't
It's
stopped.
awful. If you'd like to get any us at all at any level, just to contact whatever, just don't send us anything about this. Do not like and rate this thing, because we don't need a rating for this one. But any of our other episodes, if you'd like to rate it and give it a up thumb, trademark, then please do that on whatever platform that you choose. I think, to sum it up, this was the best metaphorical episode we could have done to describe this
2020.
year. Describe
Yeah.
2020. And there you go.
Pancreas. Yeah, we're done.
That's all we have for this week. Thanks for spending time with us. Please leave a review and comments wherever you listen. It helps others find the show. If you have topic suggestions or would like to get in touch, you can reach us at roleplaygeeks@roleplaygeeks.com. Head on over to the website for an archive of all our previous shows, as well as links to all our social media channels. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next week.